And so I always loved music, and when I became about 13 or 14, I kind of just knew that that was what I was going to do. But I grew up in a Nigerian household, so there was no saying that out loud or whatever. I was just like, okay, so how am I going to finagle this? But I came up at a time where, you know, Vibe magazine, Source, the whole thing, and I was a really good writer. So I decided I'd go to school for journalism, and I would combine the two things, and that would be how I would get it done. I just had to get to a place where I was like, I'm just gonna have my, like, here's what I think sometimes as far as we as women, sometimes we just have to get to that place in ourselves to be like, I'm just gonna fucking say it. Like, and that, I'm not gonna front, like, it does as a young woman, it takes you a second to get to that confidence level, but once you are there, like, it's like once I reached there for myself as a woman in this business, I was there. You know what I'm saying? But it's just something that we kind of have to get to on our own. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. For me, I think it's really someone who like has that eye of the tiger and wants to be here for a really long time and is going to put the work and the time and effort and not be ready to skip steps. I think that's the number one thing I see sometimes is like artists really do, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in the hype of like, oh my gosh, I have this many followers or I have this many streams, but it's like, if you're really trying to build a long-term career, it's like there's so much more strategy and patience and time that takes into doing that, and a lot of people want just a fast, quick response. So I've been doing this thing lately where I've just been going to random places that no one would normally go to find, right? Like we just did and not to say that no one normally goes to Toronto, but like we spent a couple of days in Toronto, and like we just kind of told people we're in the city, and like we literally, it was just, hey, we want to meet every single songwriter and producer up here, because as much as Drake and all this other stuff, like a lot of people, there was so many people, like talented producers that like a lot of people aren't tapped into, and then they were just like, yo, so dope you guys came up here, because we usually have to go to LA or New York or whatever. So I like going to different corners where, like, you know what I'm saying? But I also listen to a lot of records like SoundCloud or what, and if something is like, I listen to a lot of different records, and if I like what I hear, like I'll try and figure out who wrote the record. Usually, a lot of times artists, sometimes like new artists are just really good writers. Find a lot of producers that way, you know what I'm saying? That's a good question. Do I get I don't get devastated often. Oh, okay. But I mean, yeah, sometimes. So
how do you deal with that?
How do I deal with it? I believe everything happens for a reason, right? So it's like sometimes there's certain situations just weren't met at this particular time. Like there's definitely an artist that ended up signing somewhere else, again, because the deal got a little crazy, and they're not having a good time at that other place, and it's like, when you're ready, just let me know. I'll be there. Like, it's gonna be okay. Like, you know. So yeah. I mean, my most recent proud moment was Cardi winning, you know, the Grammy. Like that was a really, really proud moment for all of us, you know, because that was, you know, a lot of people worked really hard for that. But I have proud moments every day. Like Lizzo just dropped that record with Missy, but like I remember when I was like, you have to meet Missy, Lizzo, she's gonna love you, and they first met and, you know, started working together, and now they dropped the record. Like I felt so good about that today, you know. So that's the good thing. I feel like every day I have a proud moment of like one of our artists like doing something incredible. There's no balance. Like it's really there's really no balance. Like it's a lot, it's hard work, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm very lucky, I'm very happy to have two, great kids, and I'm married and the whole thing. I'm lucky that I have a supportive husband who has a little bit more of a stable kind of career, so I'm able to travel and do a lot of things. It took me like when my oldest son is 9, my youngest is about to be 8 years old. But when they were younger, like I had a moment where I really couldn't move around like I did, and I didn't work as late. I wasn't in the studio till 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Like I had to be home. So I definitely had a few years where like that's what I worked, and then I went home and I had to do that. Now I'm in a place where my kids are a little bit older, and so I'm able to do a lot more. So that by the time we're ready to go, we're going. Like, we're not stopping and trying to figure it out. A record goes and now we don't have, like, I want to really have a plan and a vision for what we're doing with the music. And again, we approach things differently. For us, it's like, if I'm trying to plant the seed for you to be here for a long time from now, like, we got to get it right with music first and foremost, and take it from there. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of where it starts. But we also, we have an incredible marketing team. We work really I think it's not separated in the sense that, like, all right, cool, we're done with the records, now here you go, see you later. Mm-hmm. We kind of work really closely and in tandem, and I think that's really important, is for A&R and marketing to be unified, so that, like, we're executing a vision together. Mm-hmm. There's enough, like I said, I think it's incredible that see, I love artists and I love creatives, and I think it's incredible that people have options, and again, that's a new option. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it works. I don't know. I know what we're good at, and I know that we kill it, and I know we break more artists than any other, entity right now. And so I know that that's a big part of the conversation, but I see every day the kind of value we bring to artists. And I think for a certain type of artist who has a certain type of ambition, and if that ambition is all the way up here and they get it, then let's be in business. If you don't get it, cool. Let's see how it goes. That's my favorite emoji. But let's just also be clear that there's also different levels of artists and different lifespans of artists, right? So I think that certain artists do benefit from the independent grind, in the sense that if really they're doing, a certain business and they can totally handle what they're doing by themselves, and their expectation of where they want it to go is a certain expectation, then cool, it works for certain people. I mean, lots of people are able to have really great careers coming out of independent situations. I think where a major label comes into play is if you're really trying to be a global artist, if you are trying to have a long-term career that can outlast just what is happening right this second, you kind of need the resources, like as far as the expertise, the number of people, the global ties, and even amongst labels, like they're all different. Like, so certain labels are, more like, okay, I want to sign a hit record that's coming in, and I know what to do to take that record, and then once that lifespan is done, boom, let's go on to the next. Atlantic, and I'm not just saying that because I work there, is really much more of an artist, like that is our ethos, is artist development. And we really only focus on signing artists that we know want to be here in 10, 15, 20 years. And when you kind of play that game, you know, there's only certain types of artists you can sign. We can't sign everybody. We don't sign everybody for that reason. You know, artists like a Bruno Mars, that we built that from ground up. We built a Trey Songz from ground up. Honestly, Cardi B, like when a lot of people, you know, want to say, oh, you signed her off of social media or off of whatever. It wasn't that. It was like, we met her and we saw an artist who had the eye of the tiger, who wanted a long-term and took this seriously, and had already been building a business on her own outside of the TV. Like, I hadn't even watched her on those shows, you know what I'm saying? So I think major labels serve a purpose for a certain group type of artist who has different type of vision for their careers.